I got offered a sales manager's role from where I was as a marketing exec. On the same day that I got offered that, I decided to hand my notice in and started the business. People tried to discourage you. So I didn't need that negativity at that point. You know, if you get one person saying to you, oh, don't do this, and you get in two people saying it, three people saying it, very quickly it becomes that thing that you think, is there a reason why everyone's telling me not to do it? As you do, you think, no, that's it, I'm done with studying. You know, I just want to get into a job and earn money. I mean, I've seen my dad fail in business because someone took off with his money. We then had the car rental business. That was a struggle. So, you know, we lost a lot of money in that. I think, look, you have to believe that, you know, whatever is written for you and whatever is meant to be will be. But you do need to be resilient. It is very difficult.
How much money are we talking, if you don't mind me asking?
In the car rental business, I would say good part of about 100.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Talk Me Through It, the podcast where we talk about business and entrepreneurship with founders, CEOs and more. My name is Nabil and in this first episode I'm joined by Noman, the owner of Bun Squad. If you haven't heard of Bun Squad, where have you been hiding? Because they have been blowing up online with people travelling from all over the UK to try their incredible food. From taking over social media to the highs and lows of starting a business, today Noman tells us how he started Bun Squad from the ground up. Let us know your thoughts in the comments, leave a like, share and comment on who you'd like to see next on the show. Enjoy. You mentioned about coming into business a bit late.
Yep.
How old were you, obviously, when you started this, and what kind of other business ventures did you attempt before?
So with this one, I started this last year, so I was 41, but the actual journey started probably a year before that. And prior to that, I think I was in my early 20s when I started my first one. That was a car rental franchise. So that was back in 2004. And that sort of lasted about a couple of years, two and a half years. And then I folded that. And then I was looking for different jobs and eventually landed in the civil service. So then I was there for 14 years before I jumped into this.
Oh, no way. Okay. What were you doing there?
Border Force.
Oh, right. At Heathrow and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Nice. I've got a few friends working there actually.
Yeah, there's half a Wickham probably working there. Yeah. So yeah, then from there, it was during COVID times.
Yeah.
I got COVID the first time round, and I took some time off.
Yeah.
And then
that's why you were still working at Border Force.
I was still working, not in I was still part of the Home Office, but not in Border Force. Yeah. Not at Heathrow. So I moved into a different role, which was still in Heathrow, but just outside of the airport itself. I was there for about 3 years before I then got hit with COVID, and then I took a step back. I was off for a few months. I just started to sort of reflect and think, you know, I need to be doing something else. My health wasn't great. And then went back to work for a little while, then got hit with it again. Oh, second time round, yeah. So at that point, it was a struggle. Yeah. Doing shift work was a struggle. Doing night shifts, early shifts, and then late shifts. That's all it was. It was kind of like there wasn't very many sort of mid shifts. Yeah. So that was just taking a toll on my body, and I was struggling with it.
14 years is quite a long time.
I got comfortable.
Yeah, I can imagine.
I got comfortable.
Because you had you were business focused initially with your car rental company, which I do want to ask you about as well. But going from, you know, I think when anyone starts a business with entrepreneurship and so forth, you kind of feel like when you start getting, for example, sales, when you start seeing, you know, like your ambitions or your hard work, you know, pay off or come to life a little bit, you become very hungry for it. Mm-hmm. or it makes you feel like a certain type of way because you've done this for yourself. So for you to stop that and then go back into work,
I think it was interrupted purely because we weren't making the money.
Right. Okay.
So it was a struggle from the get-go.
Yeah.
You know, the projections that we were given by the franchisor didn't materialize.
Right.
So things weren't adding up, and very quickly we started to lose a lot of money. Yeah. So then we kept going, kept fighting it. But it was firefighting. It was every day there was something new. There was a different challenge. And eventually we had to move location because we realized that the location we were in was too expensive. But again, the projections that we were given, based on that, it seemed like, okay, you'll be making money. So we then moved into a different location, but I think the damage was done.
So how old were you at this point when you started?
24.
Oh, okay, wow.
Yeah, so
okay.
I was pretty much straight out of uni. I went into a job, and I was there for probably about 8 months. I got offered a sales manager's role from where I was as a marketing exec. But on the same day that I got offered that, I decided to hand my notice in because we were in the process of getting the place started.
Right.
So, yeah, just moved on from that and started the business. And then 2.5 years later, we just closed the doors and realized that, there's no going forward with this. So after that is where the real struggle started, because everything was lost and was down to zero. It was me and my older brother, and he started working. I started looking for work. I thought, I've got a degree in computer science. I'm sure I'll find something. But I think I'd missed that boat for the graduate scheme because I was like 3 years in by that point.
Yeah.
Since I'd graduated, so I wasn't having any luck with graduate schemes. So eventually, then I just started applying for anything, and then I was doing odd jobs. I was sitting outside agencies like Manpower, 7 o'clock in the morning, and if they had work, they'd send me somewhere. If they didn't, they'd just say, "Sorry, there's nothing today. Go home." So at that point, I'd just taken out a mortgage as well. Okay. So it was tough times. It was just before the business shut down. I got married, and then I took on a mortgage.
Kids as well at this point?
No.
Okay.
No. It was literally the year I got married. About 3 months later, 4 months later, I shut the business down. It was a tough decision. Me and my brother both had to agree on just closing the doors. I think he was a little bit more optimistic about the whole situation and thought that there might be light. But I could see all the finances. I could see where it was going. I could see all the communication with the franchise that I was dealing with. So I could see that they were going down, and then they were eventually going to take everyone else down as well. So that it was them in the end that took everyone down. And then after that, it was going into, like I said, going into odd jobs, and then landed myself a job initially in BA security. I was there for about 3 months, but then immigration was in the background. They were doing their own checks. So once that came through, then I joined Border Force, which was the immigration service back then. So then I got comfortable. It was a good laugh, enjoyable job. And I got comfortable
and stuff as well.
Sorry?
Good people,
Yeah, it was good fun to work at Heathrow. There was always something new. Every day was different cases.
That's what I hear from everyone working at Heathrow.
It was good fun. But now things have changed.
Yeah.
It's not what it was back in 2008 when I joined the service. I was doing different roles within Border Force. You had more opportunities then to sort of work in different teams, but gradually all that started to go, and I then started applying for promotions as well, but I wasn't having much luck.
Sure.
So then I started getting like temporary promotions and just moved sort of upwards through temporary promotions, and eventually took a permanent promotion, but outside of Heathrow, outside of the airport. But it was still within the Home Office. So I was there for 3 years, and then after COVID, this is what took off.
So at your time at working at Border Force, 14 years, you're stacking up money, you're saving as much as you can, are you? Or what's your kind of mind frame?
No, it was at that point, it was still, believe it or not, still playing catch up. It was still clearing the debts from the business.
Okay.
So it took a very long time.
So you went into the business with your brother, was it?
With my older brother, yeah.
Older brother, okay,
yeah.
Cool.
So after we closed it, it took a very long time to sort of stabilize myself. Probably, I'd say a good part of 10, 12 years.
And how was it working with your brother? How did you find that?
It was stressful.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was stressful.
Because going into business with family
Yeah,
can sometimes go one of two ways. There's not really any other way to put it. You hear a lot of other, whether it's horror stories or success
yeah.
stories, and that's about it. So how was that kind of experience for you?
Um, it was tough at the time, but Alhamdulillah, we're
Alhamdulillah.
very tight as
Yes.
brothers. So we have different mindsets like people do. He is sometimes the way he thinks is different to me, and vice versa. Sometimes I'll think of something and he won't agree with it, but I guess that's quite natural. We get on really well from the start. Growing up, we were always like friends. Obviously there was a respect level there as the older brother, but he would take me out with his friends as well. There's about a 5 year age difference, but yeah, it was we did disagree on things when it came to business, and it was tough working together. But eventually we would go back to the same house. Sometimes we won't talk to each other for a day or so, but you know, we were sat in the same office all day
Right, right, right.
together for sort of 2.5 years. We were doing everything together. We'd share the responsibilities. I tried not to throw too much on him, and I was juggling a lot of things on
Yeah.
my own just to try and alleviate some pressure off him. But
What
yeah,
what kind of drove you though to go into business
it
together?
wasn't
Like,
me actually, it was him.
oh, really?
Yeah,
Okay,
it was
cool, cool.
actually him.
Yeah,
Um, he's one of those that he wouldn't just trust anyone.
yeah.
So it was almost like he was pretty much waiting for me to come out of uni.
Oh,
And as
okay.
soon as I came out, he's like, right, I want
Let's
to do
go.
something.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I said to him, I said, look, just go in with one of your friends that you trust. I will always be there in the background to support you and help you out where I can. But go into business with someone who's going to put half the money down and take on half the responsibility. But he wasn't willing to do it.
Right.
He said, if I'm going to go into business or I trust anyone, it's you. And if you don't want to do it, then that's fine. So I almost felt compelled to go and support him with a venture that he wanted to get into. So then we thought about food back then. That was I suggested going into food back then in 2004,
Yeah.
but he wanted to go towards car rental because there was a number of people locally that he'd seen, and he thought actually these guys have done well
Yeah, car
out of car
rental
rental.
around that time actually was booming, to be honest. That well, I don't know if booming is actually the word, but there was a lot of it was kind of up and coming. People were renting cars a lot then. They were a lot more affordable back then, and I guess they're still obviously doing it. But I don't think there was as many people as there are now. So it was probably a good time to maybe get into it. But I don't know if it was on. You mentioned on the franchise side of
Yeah,
things. I'm talking more of like the luxury car or premium car kind of hiring
I
and stuff.
think there was I think it was a misconception where people thought that going into a normal franchise car rental business, you can grow into hiring out luxury vehicles.
Right, like a stepping
Um,
stone into
yeah,
the
so I think people sort of looked at a couple of local examples and thought actually we can follow uh, the same route
yeah.
and start doing that. But it's not. It was more glamorous than it looked. Um, when I say it looked more glamorous than it actually was, because you saw someone doing normal cars and then very quickly uh, moving into luxury vehicles.
Yeah.
So a lot of people thought actually that's quite easily done, but nobody knows what goes on in the background. Nobody knows how it all works. They might look at where you've started with this particular franchise and think actually that is a route to go up.
So what was was it just sales that caused that to fall apart, or was it
I think it was the
like
franchisers said, they portrayed this image of themselves that they're as big as some names out there that are well established.
yeah.
And they said, we've got corporate clients and we'll be sending you work through central reservation. You won't have to drum up as much business. But it was quite the opposite. when we got into it, we realized that there wasn't any corporate work coming in, and we had to drum up the business ourselves. And it's very difficult. You're competing with companies that have been established for, 10, 20, 30 years, maybe longer. Their buying power was a lot stronger. So they had purchase vehicles, whereas ours were all leased. So it was overall there was a different operating model that those companies were operating through compared to what we were doing, and our model didn't work very well.
So then that's obviously 2 years down. You tried that.
It was about 2.5 years.
Sure. Then going back to what you were saying before, so then 14 years at Border Force.
Yep.
And now you've caught COVID. You're not feeling too good. You're kind of then you went back to work. You caught COVID again for the second time, and then at this point you've had a moment of reflection.
Yep.
In terms of like career choices and like
career choices, have a better work and life balance. Try to spend a bit more time with the family.
Have you had kids at this point?
Oh yeah.
Well? Oh, you have. Okay,
yeah.
Cool.
I've got 2 boys.
Allahumma barik.
One's 6, almost 6. I always forget their age. I know roughly.
Yeah.
One's around 6 and around 12, I'd say. So I think my younger one was about 3.5 when I started thinking about this. So it was just like I said to you, is to be able to have more time at home. It's quite the opposite.
Yeah.
I think what people don't realize is when you get into business, especially in the food sector, it's relentless, and you don't get as much time at home as you think.
Yeah.
There is always something coming up every day. You can be faced with a new problem. Could be staffing issues, could be supplier issues, could be equipment, could be all sorts of things.
Yeah.
So it's been the last year, I'd say 2 years have been very tough.
Sorry, just to track back a little bit. So you've had that moment of reflection.
Yep.
So if you, how can you fill in the gaps from that bit where you've had your COVID for the second time? Yep. What was it that led you to have that kind of, epiphany? Like,
I think it was, for me, it was also this thing about it's now or never. I've got this drive, I've got the energy now as much as I did, and thought if it happens, it needs to happen now. So I gave myself that, okay, I'm now 40, I'll give myself until 45. If I can make something, it'll be in this window. And if I'd miss this window, then more than likely I would end up just working for someone for the rest of my life.
Sure.
So that's where I took the plunge. I started looking into things, had a house, sold that.
For the venture?
Yes,
wow.
Pretty much. Like, the capital had to come from somewhere.
Yeah.
It wasn't all of it. It was a fair amount that, came from that. So there was some from there, then support of family and friends.
Selling your house, that's quite a lot of pressure as well, to be honest. You having to discuss with your wife, you've got family and stuff to support.
Yeah, so we just bought a new house, so we'd moved into it, but we had to sell the other one anyway.
Right. Okay.
But then it was a case of, do we sell it and then put the money into the new house?
Right. Okay.
Whether we invest it somewhere.
Yeah.
So that was the choice that we had to make.
And how did your wife feel like about going down?
Yeah, she was very supportive of it.
Sure. Amazing.
She said, if this is what you've been wanting to do and you are quite passionate about it, then let's do it. So she was behind me pretty much throughout the journey. But I was very, very occupied when I was doing this. I was up late night looking for properties. Funny thing was that, I'd be sitting in bed up till 2, 3 in the morning, just searching different websites, looking for properties. And, sometimes you turn around and she'd be like, are you still awake? You need to go to sleep now. You're not going to find a property 2, 3 in the morning surfing the net. And the funny thing was, when I found this property, it was around about that time.
Yeah.
It was about 2, 3 in the morning that I stumbled across this property on one of the websites. I think they must have put it on that evening, because I was keeping up with that website on a daily basis. So they must have put it up late that evening, and then I happened to come across it and made an appointment. Came down to view the property. It used to be an insurance company. It was just an empty building, just an empty office. So I had the vision. I knew how I wanted to do it up, and I made an offer. Said to them, "Look, I'm quite serious about this." I was a little bit skeptical about them giving me a chance, because a lot of the commercial agents, they want someone with some form of business experience, and mine was 20 odd years prior to me going into this one. So I was a little bit nervous, but it was meant to be, and alhamdulillah, it happened.
Alhamdulillah.
And they said, put your business plan forward, which I did, and the landlord was happy to proceed. So then it was a case of, it was a bit of a waiting game with, all the legal work that took place. I had to apply for extraction, for the application for that. So that took a little bit of time. And then as soon as that went through, we signed the agreement. And then it was for 5.5 months. It was a lot of work.
So at the point that you signed the papers and got this place,
Yep.
did you know what you were planning to do already? Like, you had the plan that you were
So
going to
I
make?
was actually, without sort of mentioning any names, I was in conversation with another food chain. They weren't so much a chain. They had a couple of branches, and I used to go there as a customer. Used to like their food. Spoke to them and said, would you be interested in franchising? Again, sort of done one franchise before, it didn't work out. So I was a little bit nervous about going into another one, not knowing which way it could lead. But they seemed like very genuine guys, and the conversation took off from there. And they said, okay, look, we've not done one before, but we're happy to sort of look into it, start looking for a property. So as I was looking for a property at the same time, they were doing their background work in terms of how to set up their franchise model. It was a big risk, if I had gone into it, but it didn't end up going ahead, for
Why was
one
that?
reason or another.
Yeah.
Um,
Do you mind if I ask what the main reason for that was?
Um, I think there were a number of reasons. I think the further we went with it, I think the less confident I got with what they had to offer, because they didn't have a proven franchise model, and they were just doing things as they were going along. I think I lost any confidence that I had because of all the delays that were being caused, and I could have potentially lost this property with the amount of delays that were being caused. So at that point, I decided to just walk away.
Yeah.
And then it was a very tough decision, that do I set something up of my own, completely from scratch, or do I just walk away? And again, it went back to that mindset I had, that it's now or never. And at the same time, I thought nobody will give me another chance, or these commercial agents, because there's a monopoly of, there's 2 3 in the area, and they're the ones that have all the property. So I thought, if I let this go now, they might not take me serious in the future, if I was in a position to then open up again. So I decided to just sign the papers, and decided to create my own brand, trademarked it, and just started designing it. So I had it in my head how I wanted to design the place, what sort of theme I wanted, and also the type of food that I was going to do. And then as we got quite close to the end, I was working in the background with suppliers, but the actual menu creation was done quite far in the project,
Right.
towards the end. So then there was a lot of testing. It was like 3 4 weeks of food tasting, cooking up the food. So of course we had to wait till all the equipment was set up as well. So a good friend of mine in Slough, who has the same business, and he was very kind to allow me to, sort of try some of the ingredients in his kitchen. So that was very nice of him to sort of offer that. Not a lot of people do. So then I moved into, once our kitchen was done, then we started doing all the food tasting there, trying out different recipes, put our menu together, and that's it. We just had to open the doors, and alhamdulillah, at the start it was very busy. On the opening day, we couldn't cope with the rush, with the queues. We had to keep closing. Every half an hour, 45 minutes, we had to close the doors.
Wow.
And ask people to come back. So it was alhamdulillah, it was very busy. For the first, I'd say 3 to 4 weeks, but that's quite normal. You call it fake sales because everyone wants to come in and try your food.
Yeah.
So it's not something that will be. You won't get the same level.
It doesn't stay like that.
It doesn't stay like that. Yeah. You then gradually get an incline if your food's good, and alhamdulillah, it has been the case. It has been going upwards. You do get patches where it flatlines a little bit. Sometimes you get a dip because of holidays, people are away. Ramadan came, that saw a bit of a dip in the first 2 weeks, and then after that, week 3 and 4, it started to get very busy in the evenings. So it's you're constantly riding a wave, but as long as you're going upwards, and alhamdulillah, now with our social media platforms, they're taking off. So we're getting a lot of customers from surrounding towns. We're getting customers from Oxford, Chesham, Aylesbury, Maidenhead, Slough. So alhamdulillah, it's taking off.
Just about the theme in the store, it looks amazing. And you mentioned obviously you were designing this and stuff yourself.
Yep.
Are you like a big fan of Jordans yourself, or is that an idea from someone else that you got?
So the other guys that I was going to go into business with,
just for context, by the way, for anyone, there's how many pairs of Jordans on the wall?
I think there's about 25 to 30.
25, yeah, there's 25, 30 pairs of Jordans and all.
Not real ones.
Okay.
Not real ones.
Really good colours though, really good colours.
Yeah, so they're actually 3D printed.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, I did look into getting original ones.
Yeah.
But when I started doing the calculations, it worked out very expensive.
Yes,
so then we had to find an alternative.
I think if you tried to sell these, you'd actually
I've had customers ask me if I'd sell them.
Yeah, they look really good. They look really good.
Some people have said, if you can get them done for us, we'll buy them for me. But I've been too busy focusing on the business. So,
yeah. There's a business opportunity there for everyone.
Definitely.
And then you got the back wall over there.
Yeah, so that entire wall was done by hand.
Oh wow, that's amazing.
It's a local graffiti artist. I gave him the design, and I was very particular about how I wanted it. So I said I want it exactly like this. He added a few touches, and it took him 3 days to do it, and it was all done by hand. Very talented guy. He does a lot of graffiti locally in the art museum and some of the.
Is that legally? He does.
Sorry. Oh yeah, of course. Yeah. He's a professional.
Nice.
He's a professional.
I don't know. You could do professional graffiti. To be fair, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's quite an upcoming thing now.
Wow.
So I don't know if you've seen in the High Wycombe Town Centre as well. You've got that's not so much graffiti.
Oh, the bumblebees.
That's right.
Yeah.
So
they
she's
really
another
good.
artist. She has a boutique around the corner.
Wow. Okay.
So it's becoming quite trendy now. Having graffiti.
Nice.
Yeah, Banksy's put the graffiti artist on the map now.
He has, yeah.
Even though he's still anonymous.
Yeah, I don't. Did you see that guy when Banksy did? He did some art on a sign. I think it was. There was like a stop sign.
Stop sign, yep.
Yeah, and someone stole the stop sign. Wasn't it?
Yeah, they do. So there was actually on Regent Street. There was a setup in one of the shops there,
right?
And it was dedicated to Banksy, and it was a lot of his. So his, so you can actually. I didn't know this, but people were buying like a wall that might have been graffitied, and they would actually buy the wall.
Oh wow! Okay.
So they would, and that wall, it was then somehow framed or put into some kind of, onto some, not a canvas, but onto something. It was like a temporary exhibition of his artwork, of his collection.
Yeah.
So what they do is, I think if anyone's got his artwork, they would rent it off them just for the exhibition. So it was quite interesting, some of the stuff that he's done.
So I spoke to your wife when I popped in last time.
Mm-hmm.
because she noticed I was obviously doing some photography and stuff, and she mentioned a bit of a difficult time in your life, to do with one of your brothers, I believe it was, and moving from Pakistan.
Yeah, I think this was so back in. So I'm not originally from High Wycombe. So I was born in Acton, and then I don't remember that part. I was very young.
Yeah.
And then what I remember is us moving into Ealing. So we were there for I think about 3 4 years, and at that point we made a decision. Well, my father made a decision to move back to Pakistan for a better life. Um, he wanted to be closer to his parents, um, and we decided to move around sort of the late 80s. So we were living a very good life out there, alhamdulillah.
That your whole family moved.
Yeah, we all moved, yeah.
And is that so just you and your
So
brother?
me, my brother,
Yeah.
my older brother, and then my older sister,
Okay, cool.
and then mum and dad, we all moved. So, and it was great out there back in the 80s. We built a house, we moved in. Dad invested money with someone, and he decided to take off with all the money.
Oh, wow.
So at this point,
Was this investing in a property by any chance?
no, so he had a business,
Oh, okay.
and he saw that my dad was new to the area, and he somewhat became a target
Yeah,
in that
yeah,
way.
yeah.
So he kind of, in a very nice way, sad to say, Panjwak Namazi, Quran Hafiz.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But you know, and it's one of those things, when you look at these things, you naturally think, actually, this person's probably a trustworthy person.
Of course.
So my dad invested money with him into his business, and that started to fail. But rather than, you know, trying to repay his debts, the guy decided to just take off
Right.
with all the money.
Because, you know, at that time, there was a lot of people trying to convince, like, you know, people like our parents and stuff to invest in property and plots and all that kind of stuff. And you would hear a lot of...
Yeah, I think yeah. So he did invest in property back then as well. He wasn't. I wouldn't say that was the downfall. I think downfall was the other chap who took off with the money.
Yeah.
That was the main thing. So then my dad, when he came back, he got a one-way ticket back here, straight back to High Wycombe, because he had a few friends here. So then he came back to High Wycombe, started working in a factory. I think most of High Wycombe's worked in that factory, actually, near Wycombe Wanderers Football Club.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So he started working there. He was doing ridiculous shifts, 16 to 18 hours a day. And then he gradually got us all back on a plane and back here with him.
Oh, you were still in Pakistan?
We were still there, yeah,
Were you
because
going
I
to
was still
school there?
studying out there.
Okay.
My brother was studying, my sister was studying.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So then we came back, and then we came straight to Wycombe.
How old were you then, so that time?
I think that was around about the early 90s. So I wasn't there for too long. I was there for probably about 6 years, 5 6 years. And then we settled back. And then just as we kind of settled back into High Wycombe, my grandmother passed away, and then my dad felt he needed to go back and look after his dad, so we all moved back again.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So again, it was a year or two later. My brother was reluctant to go, and my dad convinced him that, you know, I'll set you up a business up there, whatever you want to do. So then we decided to move back. My brother set up his own business out there. It was a car wash business. It was doing all right, but I wasn't pulling my weight in school, and I was the only one left who was actually studying. So, and I wasn't doing very well at all. I think that the move had disrupted me so much. I wasn't being able to focus.
Yeah, because it's a lot for a kid.
Yeah.
You make your friends, you know, you get used to like how life is as well.
Yeah.
And to kind of be ripped out of that and put into another place where you have to kind of start again, and then ripped out again and put in another place.
Exactly.
Like, that's a lot.
At that point, my mum said, we need to go back. He's the only one who studies, who's continued to study.
That's talking about you, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, it's not like my brother and sister didn't study. It's because of the age they were at the time of the moves, it disrupted them quite a lot.
Yeah.
So you can quite easily lose track, you know. So I was still studying at that point, and she said we need to go back. So then we moved back, and I went straight into pretty much into year 11, straight into GCSE. So I remember a year and a couple of months. So it came in sort of end of year 10. So I had a year and a couple of months to prepare for my GCSEs. So I'd done all right, enough to get me into college. I then studied advanced GNVQ in IT, then moved on to a university, done a bachelor's in computer science. And I absolutely hate computers. I don't know why I done it. I think at the time in 2000, there was a hype, with computers and stuff. So
Yeah.
my mum said to me, "Oh, I've got a guy that works with me. His cousin, he's in IT and he does really well. I think that's what you should do." So I blindly went into it without thinking about anything. In hindsight, if I had to do something different, I probably would have gone to a sort of architecture, because I love that kind of stuff. But I didn't. I ended up going blindly into IT. Done that, and then just came out of it. And as you do, you think, no, that's it. I'm done with studying. I just want to get into a job and earn money.
Yeah.
I wish I'd stayed back and probably studied a bit more. But yeah, from that point, then I started working for W.H. Smith in the distribution department. So from there, then the car rental journey started.
Okay. I would say from a lot of content that I've watched and people that I've spoken to, I feel like it's almost impossible to get to unless it's given to you on a plate, but it's almost impossible to get to, as an example, where you are today without failing. Because through failure, you learn quite a lot and you grow quite a lot through that failure. And it kind of also is how you look at that failure, how you kind of take it on, and going through that kind of situation, with what you mentioned with the car rental and so forth, the business. What do you think are some of like your biggest lessons going through that you think have like shaped how you've got to where you are today?
I think, look, you have to believe that, whatever is written for you, and whatever is meant to be will be. But you do need to be resilient. It is very difficult. I mean, I've seen my dad fail in business, not through any fault of his own, but because someone took off with his money. We then had the car rental business. That was a struggle. So, we lost a lot of money in that. So yeah, you've got to be very resilient.
How much money are we talking, if you don't mind me asking?
In the car rental business, I would say good part of about 120 grand, which was back in 2004.
And that's from like loans.
That was
and
again, personal savings and a little bit of a loan as well. Yeah,
friends and family and stuff like that. So that must have been quite a tight situation for you guys as well to kind of get out of.
But then it comes down to that thing that when you've taken something from someone, regardless of if it was a failed business or whatever the problems that you had, I think you have to keep to your word, and you have to make sure that if you've borrowed something, you pay every single penny of it back. So I think those were some of the things for us that when we had closed down, there was debt, but once you've given your word that you need to repay it, then you have to make sure you do whatever you have to do to repay that loan.
Because that's a lot of obviously, one, trust,
and
two, generally in business, family can be quite difficult, because weirdly it's you have some people that believe in you, some people that don't, some people that have to give their opinion, some people just sit back and kind of let you do your thing, but don't always have like a good, I guess, opinion of it, because obviously stuff like jealousy kicks in, and anything, like to a lot of people, like starting a business, starting your own thing, obviously it's a really amazing thing, but I think it takes, you have to be cut from a certain cloth to be able to kind of push through and break those walls down,
Yeah.
those barriers down to get there. And a lot of people don't see that. And yeah, so like I can imagine like it must have been a lot of pressure.
To be honest, with the first venture back in 2004, I think I was very young back then to sort of pick up on these things. In this particular business, I think I've seen a lot more of that. And I think I've been exposed to sort of how people can be. And like you said, you see some people are very jealous. A lot of people try to discourage you. Some people would think for your benefit, but the vast majority would do it. They would try and discourage you. And sometimes it's because people don't want to see you do well in life. But at the same time, with jealousy, you get it all the time where the people who are actually jealous of you or try to become a hindrance, they're normally those people that aren't doing so well themselves, and they know that they're not able to do it, so they try to deter other people from doing it as well. But you have to keep focus, and you need to know that you're going to give it your best, and just leave your trust in Allah that it's going to work out.
You mentioned obviously on the topic of family. Who's kind of been your biggest source of like support throughout your kind of journey?
I'd say every person in my family.
Sure.
Everyone's played their own role. My parents, with them it's their prayers. So that's always behind you. And apart from that, I've got my older brother, very supportive in every way. I try not to disturb him, and he always says, you never ask for help. But it's just that I don't like disturbing people. He's got his own responsibilities, and I try not to sort of become a burden on anyone. My sister's been very supportive. She's been very influential in a lot of things in this journey. And my wife, she's been, part of the journey from the start. I think she was the one and only to know about this, because we kept it to ourselves, again, for a number of reasons, for bad nazar, for, people trying to discourage you. So I didn't need that negativity at that point.
Block out the noise, kind of.
I needed to just make sure that I'm keeping focus, because if you get one person saying to you, oh, don't do this, and you get in two people saying it, three people saying it, very quickly it becomes that thing that you think, is there a reason why everyone's telling me not to do it? Should I really not be doing it?
There's a big like mental warfare that goes on in your mind.
So I chose not to talk to anyone about it. I kept it to myself. I didn't tell my family, but not for that reason at all. It was more a case of I wanted to get to a certain point before I tell them, because I'm also one of those that I don't like to jump too far ahead. I don't like to disappoint people. So I felt if I was to tell my family that I'm about to do this and they get excited about it, and then I couldn't see it through for whatever reason, be it finances, be it I couldn't find a property, I didn't like to disappoint them. So I waited until I got the property. And I think that's the point. My brother got a bit of a hint. He knew there was something going on. I think he knows me quite well. So he could see from my actions that there was and he kept saying to me, when mum and dad were sat there as well, he said, he's doing something, he's up to something, but I don't know what. He's obviously trying to set something up.
Start following you around.
Yeah. I don't know if he was. No, he's too busy doing what he does. So no, but I think you could tell from my actions and, the constant phone calls, me constantly being on the phone, which I'm always getting told off for being on my phone. But it was, responding to emails, making phone calls to different people. So I think he was, and you're walking out of the room to take a phone call. So he kind of worked it out that he's doing something. So as soon as I picked up the keys, the first a lot of people that I had come into the shop were my mum and dad and my brother. Um, and it was quite an emotional time because I actually broke down at that point. And I have no shame in saying this. I broke down when I came in because it was that sense of achievement that I've reached a milestone, but I knew that there was a long, long road ahead.
It's different though when it's with your parents and your family, especially showing your parents for the first time. Like I can imagine how that must have felt for them as well as you, to
Yeah.
be honest.
And I think, especially with my niece was there as well. My brother was there, his wife was there, and I think they've always seen me as someone that's like tough as nails. And then I think for them to see me break down, I think it was a bit of a shock for them, especially my niece, and she couldn't really believe it because she's never seen me like that. But I got a bit teary, I got a bit emotional about it. But then I knew that, I had to get myself together and just get on with things now. And the next 5.5 months were very tough. They broke me down physically, mentally. It was very draining.
And this is all leading up to the launch of Bun Squad.
This was doing this whole place up, and then leading up to it. There was a lot of pressures. There were different challenges along the way. But 5.5 months down down the road, when I could see it piecing together, I knew that we're getting there. And sometimes I couldn't see it. And even now, I think I don't really. I still beat myself up about it, and I don't give myself enough credit for what I've achieved.
Why do you think that is? You're just hard on yourself.
I think I've just been so focused on the business and running it and just making sure everything is running properly. I've never taken a step back. I've never actually stepped away from it and looked at this and thought, wow, what have I actually achieved? I've always been in it.
Yeah.
And I've not looked at it from the outside. And I think when people see it, friends, family, even customers, when they come in, it's quite nice to hear when they're, that sort of wow that I get, that, you've done this yourself. You've actually achieved this. Customers coming in and saying, who's the franchisor for this place? Are they based in the States? We're interested in opening up a branch as well. So it actually shows that, I've gone away from that typical model of opening up a kebab shop somewhere. I've given High Wycombe somewhere nice to dine in with their families. The food is great, and the atmosphere is nice. We've got Sky Sports that we show live football here, so it's a bit of an environment, for the youngsters and people even of my age, middle-aged, sort of working class.
If you don't mind me asking, why did you go down the route of burgers? Because with burgers itself, some people would think that it's quite a saturated market.
Yeah.
Or there's, if we were to look around the local area and stuff, we can probably count quite a few burger spots and so on. Even as an example, like if we went down Farnham Road in Slough.
Yeah.
Like, although I know Farnham Road has now become like, the Wimslow Road of like Manchester.
Yeah, it's become like the Curry Mile.
Yeah, the Curry Mile, right? Yeah, I didn't want to say Curry Mile, to be fair.
Yeah,
but it's true.
Not a lot of curry there, but
it's
saturated with tea places and burger joints. Yeah.
So what made you kind of go down that decision?
I think it was from the initial, the venture of going with that other
franchise that you
the other
came across.
franchise, and I quite like their food, and I've always been into burgers.
Yes.
So
is that your favorite kind of cuisine?
I eat anything.
Yeah.
Anything that's good.
Yeah.
Apart from sushi.
You don't like sushi?
No, I'm not really a fan of raw meat.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Fair enough. Have you had any sushi that you like, or not really?
You know what? I remember back in the days, we were going to Alton Towers. There was a bunch of us going, and we stopped at the services. And my friend said, "Oh, I'm going to get some sushi," and I was kind of disgusted. I was like, oh, but I'm not having this stuff.
Yeah.
And I remember to this day, he said to me, it was a little, one of those little square packets from M&S.
Yeah.
And he said, do you trust me? And I said, yeah, I trust you, but I'm not eating this stuff. And he goes, do you trust me? It's not as bad as you think it is. So I tried it for the first time, but it was the safest option. It was tuna.
Oh, okay.
So
Fair
yeah,
enough. Yeah.
you know, that's bearable.
I did this to one of my mates in we were in Dubai once, and obviously like when you go out in Dubai, like all the food there is like usually top notch
Yeah.
as it is, and he's never been a fan of sushi, so I've basically gone and said the same thing to him. Look, close your eyes. And do you trust me? He goes, yeah, close your eyes, open your mouth. He goes ahead and does it. And I've just dropped like a whole roll of sushi in his mouth. And he's chewed it once.
Spat it out.
But you know what it is? It's all a mind thing for him, yeah, because he's just chewed on the rice that's on the outside of it. And there's nothing wrong with the rice.
Nothing wrong with
There's
the
nothing
rice.
wrong with the rice. Yeah. So he's just grabbed a paper bag, spat it out in the middle of the restaurant, and just looked at me and just like started like, you're not making noises, was yakking up. I'm like, bro, shut up, bro. You've only had the rice, innit? But a lot of people don't, in Pakistani culture as well, like, they don't like.
Yeah, they don't like the idea of. I mean, it's funny thing is, I'd have like smoked salmon and cream cheese in a sandwich.
Bagels or something. Yeah,
you know, I'd have prawns.
Yeah.
But I don't know. There's just something about sushi that it's never appealed to me.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. Going back to the point, I think it was just you know, one of those things, and I get that in Hybercombe, yes, there are a lot of food places, but I think I stand out from the rest. Our food is different. You know, I'm not in the business of defaming other people's businesses or putting them down, but I can only speak for my own and say that, you know, I believe in, you know, the product that we deliver. And, you know, I make sure that everything is as it should be every time. And that, you know, it's a consistent standard that we're trying to maintain.
How do you kind of maintain that kind of standard?
Try to be here as much as I can. Yeah. And customer feedback is very important. So, you know, when I am here, I engage with my customers. I'll speak to them, get their feedback. And, you know, you're not always going to be able to please everyone. Sometimes people will say that, you know, yeah, it was all right. But most of the time, I mean, our reviews speak for themselves. People do enjoy the food. You know, I had somebody come down today, and the couple, they were pretty much over ordering. And I said, are you sure you're going to be able to finish all of this? And they said, yeah, we'll be fine with it. And I said, are you big eaters? And the guy said, oh, I'm definitely a big eater, so I'll be able to finish all of this. They couldn't. They ended up coming back with asking for a takeaway box.
Yeah.
But by the end of it, when I asked them, you know, their response, I don't know if I can say it on camera as well, but they just said, F, KFC.
All right, fair enough.
So they're like, we're not going back there. So,
wow.
You know, it's people are seeing the difference in the quality of the food compared to what they've had. But again, it's the food. And I always say a lot of places these days, they have a very nice setting, you know, velvet sofas, you know, floral walls.
Floral walls is getting a bit outdated now.
It is.
I've seen a lot of people complain about it.
Yeah, but funny enough, people are still doing it.
Yeah.
You go in, everyone jumps on the bandwagon, and everyone wants to follow the same trend.
A neon sign somewhere as well. In the
exactly.
middle of that.
So, you know, and that's where I feel like I've done something very different. I'm not just saying this because it's my place, but I've not been to any other place like this. And I do believe that as well as having nice decor and having a nice environment, that the food has to be good as well. You get some places where it's, you know, the joint's done up very nicely, but the food isn't good. Or you get sometimes where the food is good, but you don't want to sit there because it's that unpleasant and unbearable to sit in. So you have to find that balance. You have to have good food, but then give your customers a nice environment as well. And I think we've nailed it. We've done both.
So reflecting on your first year of business, you mentioned obviously there's 5 or 6 months leading up to the opening.
Yep.
and then you've opened, things are booming, but as you said, people say like you call it fake sales, which makes sense because there's a lot of hoo-ha, like, and a lot of buzz
Yeah.
whenever a business launches and stuff. What kind of were your challenges the following months, like after that? So say from like month 1 to 4 or
I think it
something.
was getting used to replenishing the stock. I think that was very difficult because you never knew how it's going to go, day after the next. One day might be really busy, so you overstaff, you order in more stock, and then it might be a quiet day, or you don't
And,
order enough, and then all of a sudden it gets busy.
and you got stocks and overheads every day that you got obviously your food stock that could go off and stuff.
I think the way we do things and the way our processes are, you still have that buffer, that it's not going to go off. Every all of our stuff comes in fresh. Our beef is fresh, our chicken is fresh, our vegetables, they come anywhere between 2 to 3 times a week that we get them in, so it's always fresh. So there's and that's where, when you talk about consistency, because I'm always here, I'm able to maintain that consistency because I know that things won't run out, or if they do run out, I'm always here. I'm always at hand. But now we've got, a year down the line, but it hasn't taken a whole year, but I'm, sort of months into starting off, I started to pick up. The trends became a little bit more,
Clearer,
a
like,
bit more clearer.
yeah.
So you were able to, and sometimes, certain things that, for example, if it's a frozen item, you can over order it, provided you've got enough storage space. So that it's not going to go off. Tinned stuff, bottled stuff, you can over order.
I'm just thinking about, like, generally with like food and restaurants and businesses like that, what are the kind of stuff that people don't really know of what it takes to kind of keep up with that consistency?
I think it really depends on the kind of cuisine that you're working with.
Because obviously you haven't worked in food before,
No,
so were you getting obviously, did you have a mentor at the same time as
no,
well? Not at all. So this is just kind of
no.
guesswork for you, or how did that kind of
I would
work out?
say common sense. I would say guesswork, not so much. I'd say more common sense and more a case of, I think, just growing up and being mindful of stuff, just in your own household. If you know that, something's got an expiry date, it's common sense. Like, you need to get rid of it when it's coming to that date. Um, so, with everything, and that's where we've got the daily checks that, we're making sure that everything, but, things they're not going to expire the next day. Like I said to you, alhamdulillah, our turnaround is as such that what comes in, and it's gradually growing. So what the stock I used to get probably 2 months ago, it's now increased. So, every time I can see the trend that, what I used to order before wasn't enough, because say, for example, my delivery comes in, and if it was going to last X number of days, and I find that actually now it's not, it's running out a lot sooner. So then the following week or the next order, whenever I place it, I'd make sure that I add that little bit more to it. And gradually we get to that point where you kind of understand that this is how much we need on a weekly basis, or every other day when we're placing the order, how much we need of each item. So you kind of get used to it.
You mentioned consistency. I feel like you mentioned like having like focus and that tunnel vision when it comes to like starting your business. What other kind of attributes would you say someone that's going into business needs to have, throughout that journey, and or be aware of, or even work on?
I think firstly, if you think you're going to make it overnight, then perhaps you shouldn't go into business. It's not a lottery. You've got to work very hard. You have to give it time. You have to be patient. It's long hours. You have to sacrifice a lot. You have to sacrifice time, spent with friends, spent with family. I used to go out a lot. Now I don't get that much time. I have to really find the time to, go out, and then you have to balance it. You have to make sure that you're giving enough time to the family, you're giving enough time to your friends, giving enough time to yourself. I used to be someone who used to go to the gym 5 to 6 times a week. Now I'll be lucky if I get a run in. I did go this morning, um, almost done 5K, but my knee started hurting, so I had to stop. But once a week I'll go for a 5K run. Once or maybe twice I'll now get time to go to the gym. So there's a lot of sacrifices that you have to make. So it is difficult. If anyone thinks it's an easy ride, it's not. But you have to keep going. If you stop, you lose everything. So when you're going in, you just need to have that mindset that you have to keep going until it gets to a comfortable point. And sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes things don't work out. I went into the first business with my brother with the same mindset, but it wasn't meant to be. And 2.5 years of struggle, and despite us working every single day, all hours, it just didn't work out.
Would you say your consistency with your workouts and your runs and stuff have a really good, like, positive impact when it comes to it? How important is that to you to keep up?
It's very important, and I think I don't do it enough. I do get pushed quite a lot with the 5K runs. It's mainly my missus. She'll get me up and she'll be like, "Get up, we're going," and I struggle, but it's only because the mental drain is as such that it literally does pour straight into your body, and that mental drain then becomes a physical drain, and it becomes very difficult to get up in the morning sometimes.
Oh, sorry, the mental drain from work,
From running the business.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
So that then stops me from getting up because I'm so mentally and physically exhausted
Yeah.
that sometimes in the morning to get up becomes a massive challenge. And you just think, okay, another 5 minutes, another 10 minutes, another 10 minutes.
But then you go on that run and then you
Yep.
feel, like,
It is refreshing. I went this morning. I'm completely exhausted now as well.
yeah, I'm sorry to keep you, Emma.
No, it's
It's like
fine.
nearly 1 o'clock.
It's all right. So it is tiring, but like I said to you, and a lot of people have said to me that sometimes when you talk to other people and you say, "Oh, I feel really tired," they will say to you, "Get up and go to the gym. Get up in the morning, have a workout, and you'll feel more refreshed." And that is very true. You probably feel it at the end of the night, but you do feel refreshed, and you do have a more positive mindset for the rest of the day.
Not just from a physical aspect, from a mental aspect as well.
I think you kind of know that, you have that fight, you go into that kind of fight mode that, you've got that energy, you've just done it, and, you've got to keep going for the rest of the day.
So what does a day in the life of Noman look like?
Getting up in the morning, getting the kids ready for school, and then either myself or my wife will go and drop in, depending on if she's working. Sometimes we'll go together, drop them off, and then go for a run, or go to the gym. Once I'm done from there, if there's any stock that needs replenishing, deal with that. Then the phone calls start with different suppliers, and then it's getting myself into work, opening up at 12 o'clock. Normally here through till the evening, and then if I've got cover in the evening, then they take over. If there isn't, then I'm here till the bitter end, and close up at 11, go home, and then the same routine
Every day.
I mean, sometimes I do get that break.
Yeah.
Saturdays, I don't always have to come in the morning, so I might have to come in a little bit later. Saturday evenings, Friday evenings get a little bit busy, but Friday I'm here as well, so then that kind of runs into the evening. Saturday I don't have to be here during the day. I have cover, so sometimes I'll take that time out to take my son football. Then they both have piano lessons, so take them there. I spend a bit of time with them, have lunch with them, and then come into work. So yeah, it's quite non-stop.
Yeah, definitely sounds it. The last question, I guess, for me was just what's next for Bun Squad? Like, what's in terms of what you want to accomplish?
So inshallah, the plan is to maybe look into franchising. I've had a lot of
Inshallah.
people show interest. I've had a lot of people sort of push me towards it and say, I think you need to consider it, because the next step would either be to open another one. But I think my focus is looking more towards branching out. Doing it yourself then means opening another one, the same level of investment, and then having to manage that, bring it to a point where it can sort of run on its own. And I think with that, it will be very difficult. I think because I've seen how these 2 years have gone. And if I was to do that, not saying that necessarily the other branches would take as much time, because once you've done it, the second one becomes easier. But I think the route of franchising is probably what I want to look into. But it's early days, so don't want to jump too far ahead. Some people set up 20, 30 branches off their own. Some people set 10 branches off their own before they even sort of look at these options. But it's something that I want to sort of consider and see how things go. It might not happen, or it might do. So that's the sort of next area of focus.
My other question was just, a lot of people are probably quite curious on what it takes to, start a business like this from the ground up. What kind of investment it takes. Obviously, we've spoken about the the mindset someone has to have, the qualities, and what it kind of takes, physically, emotionally, and mentally from you. In terms of like monetary value, like financially, what kind of investment would someone that wants to open up a restaurant like this, a burger restaurant, what kind of investment would that be?
I think it varies. It really depends on sort of what scale you want to take it to. Bigger the shop, the more money you're going to have to spend decorating it. A shop this size, this is around about just under 2,000 square foot. You could be, again, it depends how well you want to do it. I've gone out of my way to get someone to graffiti an entire wall. I've gone and got these Jordans put on the wall. Somebody might just want to give it a lick of paint and settle with that. So it varies. I've got a trust that I've set up there, which nobody understood what it was about. But it was to give it the illusion of a boxing ring or a basketball ring. So, little things that you can add on. But, as a whole, I would say a business like this would require capital of anywhere between 150 and 250,000. It could be more. If you go with franchises, they will sometimes charge you for a turnkey service. They will charge you 350, 400,000, which includes a full fit out plus training, and obviously they bring you up to speed with the processes and how to run the business, etc. But if you were to do it on your own, I still think that a shop this size, you're still talking anywhere between 150. 150 is probably a little bit moderate. I'd probably say now with the cost of materials and everything, you're probably talking sort of top end of that, so closer to 200 to 250. I have done it almost a year and a half ago, so prices have increased of everything. If you're doing a smaller shop, then obviously it's less to spend. But again, like I said to you, it really depends. I mean, if you were to go and get, velvet chairs everywhere and, velvet sofas and stuff and the floral wall, yeah. The all famous floral wall. So, you'd be spending a lot more. It really does depend on, but, a ballpark figure, that's what you're looking at around about that.
What kind of options does someone have to finance a dream like that?
It's very difficult, actually. When I started off in 2004, when me and my brother started the business, we had a fair amount of capital, but we still needed that little bit extra. And at the time, the banks were giving you pound for pound. So if you were to put £1 down, they'll give you £1. So if you invested 50 grand, they'll give you a 50 grand loan. Times have changed. I put a big sum of money down and my bank wasn't willing to give me a penny. Purely because they said that there's no trading history? And I said, of course, there's no trading history because I've not opened yet. And they said, yeah, come back, sort of 3, 4, 5 months into running the business. We'll see how much money is coming in, and then we can consider giving you some kind of loan. And I didn't want to do it, to be perfectly honest. It was just making sure that if I was in a position where I needed to get some extra funding to finish off the work, then what options I had. But I realized very quickly that banks weren't willing to lend, and they won't. Hence, I had to turn to close friends and family who helped and supported me through it.
Is that where the bulk of your investment?
No, bulk of it was my own.
Okay, cool. And that's from the 14 years, I'm guessing, of working?
No, mainly from disposing of the house and some personal savings, and then the rest was pretty much towards the end where it was it was running out very quickly. I think it was because of the little things that I added. They were taking up a lot of money. So,
do you mean like the decor of
the decor?
Yeah.
Yep. The equipment, was quite expensive. I had, again, you have the option to go and get secondhand equipment. I probably could have picked it all up for a fraction of the cost, but I decided to put every single thing brand new. All my equipment is brand new. I'm one of those people, like, if I buy a car, I'd like to know the service history, how well the car's been maintained. And in these kind of machineries, there's a lot of grease and oil, and you don't know how well they've been maintained, how well they've been cleaned. So for that reason, I wanted something, I wanted it brand new from the start, so I can maintain it the way I want it to.
If you don't mind just roughly breaking down, so the costs for the decor and setting up the the seating area, the cost for that, and the cost for your kitchen, just generally.
I think the kitchen, you could sort of,
because obviously you've got industrial equipment in there,
yes,
and so forth. So how much would that have?
You're probably talking close to about 80,000-90,000.
Wow.
Which is the equipment. And then again, it depends on, when I took this shop on, I actually stripped it down to bare brick. I pulled out every single wire that was in this building, because I wanted to get it rewired properly. I don't know when the wiring was last done. Obviously, we've got heavy equipment. It needed to be wired properly. So, I had to get it all rewired, get it all replumbed. So took out all the pipe work. It was replumbed, rewired, and then everything, as you can see, how it's been decorated. So that took a massive chunk of the money as well. Seating area, I mean, it's you can't just focus just on the seating area itself, because obviously within the seating area, then you've then got all the electrics as well.
Yes. Yeah.
You've got the plumbing, obviously, with the toilets as well and everything like that. But yeah, I'd say you're still talking a sort of good part of 60 to 80 for that.
So you've been open since, was it January last year?
So February.
So
yeah, we're hitting 12 months, inshallah, this month.
Inshallah. That's amazing. And would you say you've made back the investment that you put in already?
No.
Not yet. Well, how does that kind of look like for you?
I think what people don't realize is that it may look glamorous on the outside. You look at something like this and you think, wow, there's a lot of customers in here. They must be raking it. But it's not, because by the time you've paid, your overheads, you've got your rent, you've got your rates, you've got your utilities, you've then got your cost of goods, you've then got your staffing, insurances, your accountant's fee, your any miscellaneous costs, you have breakdowns, paying for that. Then you have your corporation tax, then you have your VAT. And I think people underestimate how much actually goes out.
The way you've just pulled all of that from your from your mind.
Yeah,
you can tell it's.
I mean, it's one of those things that they say that the owners the last person to get paid if they get paid.
Sure.
You'd be lucky if you do. So, in the first year, second year, it depends how much you've invested and how much goes out. Because don't forget, early days, you're still learning. Alhamdulillah, we don't have any wastage. We do well with, what comes in and what goes out. We don't have wastage. I keep a close eye on the stock, and I'll replenish it as and when I need to. I do overstock, but I'll make sure that, everything, there's no wastage. There's a lot of things that you learn and you're doing as you're going along. You're growing the brand at the same time. Before I was using standard greaseproof paper, for example. I've now started to get branded greaseproof paper. So all these things cost a lot of money. When you start going into personalized packaging, you have to buy a certain amount.
Yeah, like a minimum order quantity.
Minimum order quantity, yeah. And they're in thousands. They're not in hundreds. You might think, okay, yeah, I need to go and get plastic cups for my milkshakes. But the requirement might be that you have to buy, somebody might say, okay, it'll cost you, I don't know, 15 pence for a cup and a lid. But the minute they turn around and say to you, you need to buy 20,000 of it, that mounts up very quickly.
Yeah,
and you suddenly, when you start doing the number crunching, you think, actually, that's going to cost X thousands of pounds just to have cups, personalized cups.
Yeah.
Then you've got your boxes, you've got your packaging materials, etc. So there is a lot of money that goes into that. I think in the first year you're paying for all these things as well. You're paying for advertising, you're paying for banners, you're paying for posters, leaflets. So I'm not saying that marketing you'd stop that afterwards. You'd have to continue that. But initially, there's a lot of things that you'd try out, and sometimes they don't work, so it's wasted money. For example, you might put a poster up and you think, actually, it's not working. Rip it down, put another one up. So there is money lost there as well. So it's anyone who's making money in the first year going into profit, you may well go into profit, but profit is profit once you've paid off everything. Just because you're making more money than that's going out doesn't mean you're in profit. You've got to be able to recoup all the money that you've invested. And in my opinion, profit is what comes in after that.
So leading on from that question, in terms of turnover, what kind of figures are we kind of looking at on a weekly basis or a monthly basis for a business like this?
It's difficult to say. I had a phone call from a friend of mine a few days ago, and his uncle wanted to buy a fish and chip shop in Birmingham, and the guy wanted £120,000 for the business, and the turnover was 10,000 a week. Now, you're talking give or take 40,000 a month. But then there's other businesses that I know that are doing 25 to 30,000 a week. Average, I would say, is if you're doing 15 to 20 a week, you're hitting good numbers. So, it could vary. It's anywhere between that. Some businesses, some pizza brands, they'll be doing 5 to 8,000 a week. But then it's reflective because, if you're running a pizza shop, for example, and it's just deliveries only, you might need 2 members of staff, maybe 3 members of staff. On a Friday and Saturday night, for me, I have anywhere between 6 and 7 staff. So it's all relative. Where their income might be slightly lower than someone who's making more, but then the other place might have more outgoings because of the size of the location and staffing overheads.
That's revenue as well, not necessarily profit, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's your turnover.
Yeah.
But if you work it out, that if you're VAT registered, unfortunately, what people don't realize is that in the food sector, hot food, you don't pay VAT on a lot of the things. So on all the core ingredients, you don't pay VAT. But once you put it all together and it becomes a commodity, you then have to charge VAT on it. So there's not a lot that you can offset in terms of VAT in the food business. The boss always gets paid last if they're lucky.
At the beginning, I'd say more. Would you not think at the beginning?
Yep.
hard work for a lot of little money, but I guess you're kind of working towards that
something.
bigger dream where eventually
It's
it's
where
not.
you want to take it,
Yeah,
and it's how far you want to take it and where it goes.
sure.
Some people don't want it to grow. They just want to open up. Like I said to you, they might want to open up a small joint. Some people don't even go as far as trademarking it. I've trademarked my brand because I think potentially it can go somewhere, and inshallah, it may well do.
Inshallah,
You just
inshallah.
have to give it a try, and if it doesn't, then it doesn't.
Cool. I just had a last couple of questions just to throw at you. Feel free to just say whatever comes first on your mind. I'll start with the first one. What's your favorite cuisine?
Oh, that's a tough one. That's a very tough question. I quite like.
What came into your mind first when I said that?
I quite like Persian food.
Okay, really?
It's a bit on the bland side, but I would say that if there was Persian food that I was having, I generally just stick with one place in Ealing. It's a restaurant called Molana's.
I thought you were going to say Persian Palace, and
No,
I was like, no. Yeah,
I went there once.
yeah.
I'll say no more. But Molana, I've been going there from the past, I'd say good part of 10, 12 years.
Sure.
And
What's your go-to dish from there?
I go for the Mumtaz.
Okay, nice.
Yeah, which is a skewer of chicken and a skewer of lamb kofta. So, and the reason I like going back there and I keep going back there is the consistency. You know what you're going to get, and it is spot on every single time. So, Persian food, that's the place for me. Then I do like Turkish, but I'm very particular about Turkish food. It's got to be cooked right.
Yeah.
I go to a place called Mantle. It's opposite Harrods in Knightsbridge. Very good food. A little bit on the pricier side, but it's worth trying.
You won't be disappointed.
You won't be, no.
Football team?
Not into football
Anything,
at all.
Are you into anything else? Sport-wise?
Boxing.
Okay, nice.
Yeah. So don't get time to follow it that much.
Yeah.
But Mike Tyson, all-time favorite. Prince Asim Hamid,
Yes.
one of my favorites. More recently, I'm not too sure. There's a lot of people that have been coming in and out. Tyson Fury, hats off to him. I think he's a great fighter. I don't think there's another one like him at the moment. He's very good. The rest of them, they're mediocre. But Tyson Fury, he's definitely the guy.
Beef, lamb, or chicken?
Depends what it is. If it's a smash burger, then it's definitely beef. If it's a kebab, then it's lamb. And if it's going to be chicken, then if it's in a Thai green curry, then I'll have a chicken any day.
Nice. So apart from sushi, there's nothing else you don't like at all?
I don't like all this, like mussels and
Yeah.
these kind of
Yeah, a lot of people
bits.
don't.
Yeah, none of that stuff. None of the
Yeah.
raw stuff.
Yeah.
Not too fond on having sort of. I've not really tried Japanese cuisine or Chinese, but the Chinese style food that you get in Pakistan is very different. It is very tasty. I found the Chinese food in the UK isn't the same.
What's food like in Pakistan for you?
It's amazing. I think
Oh.
anything that you have out there is good.
Is there like a memorable dish that comes to mind? Or a restaurant?
When I was back there, I used to go out and I used to eat on the streets from little stalls, and I used to get told off when I used to come back. My
Yeah.
mom said, "Oh, you've gone out there. You don't even know if they wash their hands.
Spend the
They
evening.
use the same oil."
Spend the
Uh,
evening in the toilet, maybe. Or like 2 days.
Yeah, I mean, I was back then. I think I built up my immune system.
Nice.
My stomach lining was
Yeah.
was able to deal with it.
You
So
have a sip of that tap water and you're done.
yes, the tap water you have to be careful with.
Yeah.
Definitely. But no, just eating street food out there in Pakistan was amazing. The sweet potato out there, which is called shakarkandi,
Yes.
it's completely different from the sweet potato that you get here. Here the sweet potato is orange. Up there it's white, and then they put like a dusting on it, squeeze of it's like a in between a lemon and an orange. Having corn on the cob.
So you like the street food?
Oh
kind of
yeah,
vibe? Yeah.
you
Yeah.
can't beat the street food out there.
Yeah, definitely. Dream car?
Uh, Bentley Continental GT convertible.
Convertible. Yeah.
Has to be a convertible.
You know, people, I'd say from your generation, love that car, man. Honestly,
Are you saying the older lot? Yeah,
yes,
like
definitely.
the 40 plus is
Bro,
like
I'm
that.
not gonna lie, I'm not that far behind you, to be honest.
Yeah, no, I quite like that. I do like the Bentayga as well.
Yeah.
Very classy. Um, so yeah, but no, Bentley Continental GT, the convertible is the one. Or I'd say the Aston Martin, but I think it's too. I think as I'm growing older, I find those kind of cars too claustrophobic and
Yeah.
too compact for my liking now.
This is a bit of a controversial one. Mum's cooking or your wife's?
No comment. I think they're both very different.
Yeah. Don't
Um,
worry, we won't send this to
I
them.
think certain items that my wife makes are amazing. Certain items that my mum
Oh,
makes.
so you mentioned your wife first in that.
Oh, they're both.
Answer.
Yeah, they're both good. No, playing with my words.
Yeah, nah, I'm messing. Apple or Samsung?
Apple.
Apple.
I hate
Nice.
Androids.
Me too.
I find them very difficult to navigate around.
Yeah,
And
right.
sometimes my mum will say, "Oh, I can't do this thing. Can you just do it on my phone?" And I'm like, "Mum, I'm not doing it.
There's a
I
lot going
can't
on
do
in a
this."
Samsung. But if
They're
they want
very
to
good
sponsor
quality.
this,
Their camera quality is very good. I think the functionality is great, but it's not for me. I find Apple more user friendly, although I still can't get used to using an Apple Mac.
oh, a lot of people have that problem, to be honest.
I can't get my head around it. I think I'm so used to Windows. So yeah, in a laptop it's that, but on a phone it's got to be Apple.
Top three restaurants, because you mentioned you're quite a big foodie. Do you have anything that's yeah, just top three restaurants that come to your
So I
mind?
think Mantle would be one.
Yeah.
They used to do a very nice blueberry cheesecake, and I would drive into London just to have that. But unfortunately, recently they've changed the recipe slightly, so it's not the same. I probably will go back there and see if they've changed it back to the way it used to be.
Do you
Um,
like Mantle for the desserts or for
no,
the
even their food's
oh, the
good.
food's good
Their
as well?
food is very good as well.
What's
So I
your
normally get the
go-to?
mixed grill.
Okay, nice.
That's very nice. There's another dish that I can't remember the name of, but that's quite nice in their starters. But yeah, overall their food is very good.
Cool.
Um, and then Molana's is definitely up there. I would definitely go to that. And I think top
Bun Squad.
three. Oh yeah, Bun Squad's got to be up there. I mean, I eat this food nearly. I mean, keep getting told off, but it's probably about 3 times a week
Yeah.
at a minimum. I blame some of my friends for it because they'll come down, especially to eat here, and then they get offended if I don't eat with them. So I end up eating
Yeah.
at Bun Squad 2 to 3 times a week at least. Sometimes it's more. And if I'm behaving, then or they're not coming down for the week, then yeah, sometimes I kind of have one. But it's also the fact that I'm here all day, and sometimes it's not possible to go home. So you kind of eat on the go. I don't really enjoy anything else. Not being biased because it's my own business, but I generally don't enjoy any other food around in the area. I'd go to Pepe's.
Because
Um,
a lot of people do that especially living in High Wycombe. Everyone kind of goes out of High Wycombe.
yes, I think that's a mindset thing. A lot of people um, like going out of town.
Because that's what I was thinking is also you opening a restaurant in High Wycombe, there's also that bit of worry where it's like the culture or the mindset living here is generally everyone leaves to get food. And obviously
Yep,
we've got towns like Slough that are around the corner with, like looking like South or Broadway now.
yep. There's endless choices there.
Endless, yeah, different cuisines,
I think
choices.
that was one of the reasons that drove me to open in High Wycombe.
Right.
I did have a lot of people say to me, "Why are you opening in High Wycombe? It's not really a great town to open a restaurant in." But I wanted to open. I wanted to have something. A lot of my friends used to come from out of town to see me, and I'd get in the car and say, "Right, let's go to London." And their response normally was that we've come to see you. all the way, and now you want us to drive all the way into London. And I said, but there's nothing here to eat. So I didn't really feel there was a nice enough environment for people to sit in. There are some restaurants, but I mean, you've got Historia next door, great restaurant, good food. And there are a few other ones, but none that you would not as a, I would say they're more, I think there's different categories. You've got fast food, where you've got places like McDonald's, KFC. Then you have the more sort of casual diners. There used to be a place in town called Grillers. They shut down. There was another one called, I think, Mom's Diner. I saw those more as they were similar to my food. They were more casual diners. And then you've got like, I wouldn't say the fine dining, but slightly higher up. Fine dining you'd probably find more in sort of central London. But here, which if you step up from that, then you've got places like Historia. You've got, there's a new place opened up in High Wycombe, another Turkish restaurant. You've got Bombay Palace that have been there for years. They've recently refurbished and it looks very nice. I did used to find that going past it for years that, how are these guys still open? Every time you drive past, it was empty. And it's funny how refurbishing the place has completely lifted it. I drove past today and they must have had 80% capacity, like seated. So, you did have those kind of restaurants out there, but I think it wasn't for our generation. It wasn't for our community, and the normal working class wouldn't go to these places because they were quite expensive. So it was either going to a fast food or not going or going out of town. So I wanted something nice in High Wycombe. And alhamdulillah, you get a mixture of clientele. I get anywhere from school kids to university students, and then, kids in their sort of 20s, and then going up to sort of 40 plus, my age category, and, coming in with their wife and kids. So yeah, it's a mixture.
Looking back, would you have done anything different with your journey bringing this place up?
I don't know. I mean, location wise, you could say that, you perhaps could have picked a slightly different location.
That's in the area or the physical location of the shop? Restaurant, sorry.
I think a bit both. I mean, if I had the choice to go and do it in a different town, I know that it probably would have worked differently. It probably would have picked up a lot quicker in a different town.
Did you have any other towns in mind?
So I thought West London was an area. East London's too far. I know it would work very well there, but it was too far. Birmingham is another city where it would work really well. But again, logistically, it wasn't possible. So I decided to choose and stick with my own town for a number of reasons I've already said. But then location in terms of within the town, the shop location, it was very difficult to find a shop. I was actually going for the one where Chaiwala is. I got messed around. So they decided they didn't want to give the business, they didn't want to give it for a fast food business, not fast food. They didn't want to give it for anything which had a lot of frying because of the residential element above. But months later, they gave it to Jaiwala, who also do a lot of frying. So I think it was more a case of they wanted to give it to someone, with a bit of brand recognition. So they gave it to Jaiwala. So that location probably would have been good. But I always believe that everything happens for the best. And, you plan one thing and Allah has different plans for you. And maybe I wouldn't been able to survive if I opened there because the rent and rates for that location are very high. So maybe it's happened for the best. And alhamdulillah, it's, I got this for a decent price. And it's not a bad location. We're away from we're kind of in the middle of town centre, slightly out, but we still have businesses on either side, food businesses, so we're in a good location. Parking can sometimes be a bit of an issue in the area, but we've got 2 multi-story car parks, 3 including Sainsbury's. where people can park and you sort of come across.
Amazing. Thank you so much. It's been a absolute pleasure.
Thank you.
And obviously with your busy schedule, fitting me in, so I really appreciate that. Thank you.
No problem at all. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, it's been amazing to hear about your journey. Inshallah, I wish you all the best as well for the future. May Allah make your journey fruitful. May you make it, a journey, one which helps you to grow and achieve your ambitions, inshallah.
Inshallah.
And yeah, genuinely wish you all the best.
Thank you very much.
I think your work ethic is quite inspiring, and just seeing, obviously, you mentioning stuff talking about consistency and focus, talking about being here, like present. It does take a lot, and subhanallah, it's beautiful to see, like, especially Muslims in our community, like, are taking that kind of step towards that kind of, working for themselves, raising a business from the ground up. You don't see it as often. Well, you do, I guess, but especially in our local community, it's really beautiful. So may Allah bless it, put barakah in it, and facilitate it in any way possible, inshallah.
I mean, and I think one thing it's very important to mention, that it's very important that when you talk about community, that you get that support, and alhamdulillah, there is that support. There's repeat business. Customers are coming back, but I think sometimes people can be very negative and critical as well. And I think we should all do our best to support local businesses, because without that support, it becomes very difficult. And I'm one of those people that if somebody was to start a venture, I always do my bit to support them. If somebody comes in to ask for advice, I always, in fact, I've got a friend coming down tomorrow. He's become a friend. He was a customer, and we've become friends. We've never met outside of here, but he's coming down tomorrow. He was looking to get into the same sort of business. And, look, whatever's written for you, you're going to get that. Nobody can take it away from you. And I believe that helping someone isn't going to, take away from what you're going to be getting. So you should always try and help other people. And I think people don't do enough. They think, oh, what if he opens up a business? What if it affects my business? I think it's a wrong mindset that we have. I think we really need to believe in the fact that, whatever is written for you, you're going to get that. So just do your best to do what you're supposed to be doing in terms of your work and your business, but help people along the way is very important. And I think that is the way the next generations are going to progress as well. If they get that, the mentoring, the help and support from the elders or people who have achieved something. And I think if they share their experiences and they share the advice, unfortunately people feel like, or leave them to it, let them learn the hard way. If we've struggled, why should we let it be easy for someone else? And I think it's the wrong mindset. So I really think, and I hope, anyone listening to this, they take away that message from it, that, it's good to help someone. And I think the pleasure you get out of helping other people, it's unmeasurable. The satisfaction that you get is different.
Just came into my mind as you mentioned there was a friend of yours in Slough that also has like a similar, is it a burger business? Do you think
yes,
they played that kind of role for you?
Yeah, absolutely. So he had a similar journey. He was in a corporate job and just got fed up, decided to set up his business from home. He started doing different cuisines, different days of the week. And eventually he found himself a shop, kitted it out, and he's opened up. Goes by the name of Big Boy's Kitchen.
Amazing.
Very popular in Slough. Mashallah, he's doing really, really well.
I'm hoping to get him on next.
Yeah, inshallah. Let me know and I'll happily sort of arrange that meetup for you guys.
Amazing.
He's done a podcast with someone else as well. but I'm sure he'll be happy to do it
Yeah,
again.
I think he's got a podcast himself as well, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but he was very inspirational when I was going through the hoops, and he's been there, for sort of any kind of advice, and it was very kind of him. Like I mentioned earlier, he let me use his kitchen, and just generally bouncing ideas, getting his feedback on things. So it's like I said, he knew I was going into the same business. I'm not on his doorstep, but if somebody doesn't want to help you, they can quite easily say, they can be quite vague about it. But he was very open. He was very helpful. And we're still very good friends. I just don't get enough time to go and see him. And we've been, every now and then we exchange messages, and I was like, I need to come and see you. Or he'll be like, when are you free? But it never ends up happening. By the time he locks up and I lock up, it gets so late. We've not had the chance. But I think talking about him now, I think I really need to make the effort and make
Maybe
it
we
happen.
should get both of you on one podcast.
Yeah,
that would be a good one.
That would be good as well. It might end up being quite a funny one, but yeah, there you go. He's a bit of a character.
Yeah.
But no, definitely he's been inspirational, and again, hats off to him for being there as well. Like I said, it's your closest, your friends and family that actually push you and get you through these difficult times. And it was a very difficult time.
Yeah.
But alhamdulillah, we are where we are. And it's only one way, and that's upwards and onwards.
Inshallah. Jazakallah khair. Thank
you
so
very
much.
Thank you for your time.
Amazing.